Berry Share. I'm Brandon Berry.
And I'm Nicole Berry.
This is Nicole Berry. And we, every Thursday night, are getting in the habit of just joining any of you guys that want to join us and share with us in a conversation about life's priorities. Yeah. And so our motto is inspiring passion for your priorities. And so we are all about that. We're all about, what are you laughing at?
You sound like you're that sloth.
A sloth?
Okay.
True confession. True confessions. I was just asleep like 20 minutes ago. Less than that.
He definitely fell asleep watching Harry and the Hendersons.
So,
did you guys know Harry and the Hendersons is back on Netflix?
On Netflix.
How many of you, put a 1 in the comments if you remember watching Harry and the Hendersons when you were a kid? Like, we were flipping through Netflix with our kids. We wanted to watch like kind of a short movie and just have some snuggle time on the couch with them after dinner tonight. And we were like, Pirate Fairy, Tinkerbell, no. Zootopia, we've seen it 1,000 times now. And hey, Chuck Flanagan, yeah, I see you over there. But
Danny
we come
Fetter,
up,
Nick Klutz, Jeff Dahl, what up?
We come up to Harry and Brandon and I were, yes,
Harry and the
Harry and the
And I just remember, especially when he like hits his head up into the station wagon, and it made it look like a police station. And I remember him like, hanging his head out and sounding like a siren and impersonating officers and all that. So
yeah.
Anyway,
but you definitely fell asleep during it.
Oh yeah, I didn't see any of that. Yeah, so I was conked out.
And I was like, hey babe, we gotta get up and do our video.
Okay.
So we're super well prepared today, obviously.
So speaking of watching TV, tonight we're talking about intentional parenting and how electronics, I don't know if it helps us or it hurts us.
Well, I think we
can
use it for both.
Definitely plays a role. It's like fire. I mean, fire can be used for good or it can be used for bad.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. Yeah. Today we just want to talk with you guys. And we're not the only ones doing the talking. We would love to hear what you have to say. How do we be intentional in our parenting and use electronics for the betterment of our kids? How can we use social media? How can we use all the electronics that we have at our disposal and in such a way that disciples our kids,
Coop?
that helps our kids to know and feel loved by their Heavenly Father, to know and feel loved by their parents. And it's not, obviously, there's lots of bad ways to use social media or electronics, phones and stuff. But what do you guys think? Like, electronics, are they good? Are they bad? What do you think about them in your parenting? I'm going to go get some coffee. I forgot my coffee cup real quick. I'll be right back. Y'all think about it.
All right, so why don't you get your coffee and let's have a conversation about this. So I don't know if there are any other hubbies out there that, in our relationship, and I think in most relationships, there's usually one party, and sometimes it's the husband, and sometimes it's the wife, that is probably a little bit more inclined to have a social media addiction than the other. So I'll let you guys guess who it might be in our relationship.
Yeah, actually we had a friend come by today, and he was talking about, he came to visit with Brandon for a few minutes and grab something, but he was talking to us both walking downstairs.
Yeah.
And he was like, "You're a Facebook junkie," talking to me. And I was like, I want to be like, no, I'm not. And then I was like, I don't know if I can really refute that.
Yeah. So I think I see Brad Cooper watching on here. Let me just give a shout out to Brad Cooper. He is an early adopter of all things social media. He knew about Facebook before anybody knew about Facebook. And he
told us about Twitter
he was like, this is going to be big.
Yeah.
And so you got to remember who you're talking to here. So I was the last guy in college to get a cell phone. I when we were dating, I'm 22, 23 years old.
He didn't even have a cell phone.
I didn't even have a cell phone.
No
I'm
cell phone.
calling Nicole from my buddy's cell phones, and it was back in the day where it was like, hey, do you have free nights and weekends? You remember those days?
It was really bad on my part
Yeah.
too, because I couldn't even like screen your phone calls or anything because they were
Yeah.
coming from all different random numbers, like Western North Carolina phone numbers and Atlanta phone numbers and
Hey,
Charlotte.
Coop, do you remember me borrowing your phone to call Nicole?
Yes, totally he does. He
After a
sure
while,
does.
they started lying to me and telling me that they didn't have free nights and
Oh,
weekends.
man. My mom changed my plan, dude.
Oh, that's so wrong.
Sorry.
But
So you had to get your own. They were just like pushing you to the edge to get your own. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, we have a lot of experience with electronics, and I think that, I mean, in so many ways, it's helped our society.
Right.
We were watching, as another example, we were watching Harry and the Hendersons tonight, and there's a part where Harry, the Bigfoot, is in their house, and so they're outside the house watching, and it's like dark outside, and we're like, why are they calling someone? Elliot was with us, and she was like, why are they calling someone? I was like, babe, their phone is inside the house. They don't have a cell phone with them right now to call the cops or to call the authorities on Bigfoot who's inside their house. But just amazing how
Technology's
it's
changed our world
so much.
And I mean, so I'm sitting here, and I mean, just think about it. 6 months ago, Facebook Live didn't even exist.
Right.
And so now we're using this thing that didn't exist 6 months ago
Yeah.
to have like this regular, you know, like whatever this is, like conversation online where we're having we're talking about things that are important to us, and we're having interactive conversations with you guys. I mean, this is nuts.
Yeah.
But technology really is it's a vehicle to be used, and I can tell you the enemy is going to try to use it for evil.
Sure.
But we, the children of God, can learn how to wield this power for good.
Yeah.
I remember, I was actually, Coop was telling me that if Facebook was a country, then it is the third largest country in the world,
Population-wise?
population-wise.
Wow.
Like it's like China,
That's serious.
India, and then Facebook.
That's amazing. That's a cool stat.
And so
I never knew that.
And so if we do mission work in China and
Yeah.
India, then the world of Facebook is
It's a great
is also
mission field.
an area where we can do some
great
mission work.
mission
So,
field, yeah.
So I just thought that was an interesting perspective. That was him trying to get me, the guy without a cell phone, to learn how to tweet. So,
I love it.
Anyway,
I love it.
What's up, Brad Carter?
Brad Carter?
Yeah. So
Very good.
Diana Mack, she teaches us about social media. She says electronics controlled is good.
Yeah. Let's talk about that for a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about electronics controlled. Have you guys ever felt like out of control when it comes to your own use of electronics? Like, I know that there have been times for me where, just to be honest, like, I feel like it's an addiction. I feel like my thumb, by rote memory, will just pick up my phone and flip to what it needs to flip to so that I can escape and just look mindlessly at Facebook or Instagram and everybody else's lives. Does anyone else, put a 1 if you've ever felt that, like, whoa, I don't feel like I have complete control over this, over how much I'm using social media. Just put a 1 in the comments if you've ever felt that. If you don't put a 1, you're lying. So go ahead and put a 1. Just kidding. Just don't leave me hanging. Don't leave me by myself. But that's the thing, though. Diana brings up a good point, is that, electronics controlled is a good thing. But where does it get out? Where's the point of it getting out of control for our kids?
Right.
And also when we have to look at it truthfully for us as adults, because our kids are going to learn their habits by watching other people, and yes, they're going to learn them from their friends at school and
but we as
at
parents
church.
are the number one
yeah Influencers.
on
Wake
our
up.
kids.
Like
Sorry,
fog
I'm
brain.
still asleep.
But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, we got a bunch of ones
Thank
here.
you. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, Alexis. Thank you. Yes. Oh, Lacey says she's try not having a phone for a month, but having vibrations in your pocket like it's there. That's a good job.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Have you ever had, okay, this has
Seriously,
happened to
Lacey.
me where
Thank you, Carla.
I've seen like the notification noise, you know, and then have you ever done this where you could have swore that the notification noise just happened and you check your phone and nothing had happened? Your brain made it up.
Yeah. I don't think that's ever happened. That's weird, but hey.
No way! You gotta claim that.
I don't think that's
no?
ever happened to me.
I mean, like I'll be like ding or something, and I'll look at it and nothing ever happened. It's like my brain was.
But
like,
you know what I can say has happened?
What?
I could be in a group of people.
Yeah.
Or in like just a public place.
Uh-huh.
And I hear that noise. And so all of us pick up our phones and it's like, oh, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody else. And then you have this feeling of like, oh, I'm not as important because someone's not connecting with me.
Yeah.
And conversely, you know, when we had a high schooler / college student living with us, her phone would go off a lot. And when it did go off a lot, she'd say, oh, I'm popular. How can we as parents switch our children's mindsets to help them to understand that their identity is not in how many people are trying to connect with them on social media or via text, but their identity is connected to how their Heavenly Father is trying to connect with them all the time through the Holy Spirit. And so how can we switch the script on them? How can we, and I'm asking the question, like I really want to know because you know, we've got 4 kids right now who are, our oldest one's 9, and she just learned how to get on my old phone that doesn't have service on it, but it does still go on Wi-Fi. And she's starting to text her friends, and so she'll come home, and the thing is, though, it's still connected to my Apple ID, so it goes to my phone, too, and I'm getting all these texts from 9-year-old girls, and it's really creeping me out. But I don't want, I'm asking the question, what do you guys think? What do you guys think we should do? How, as parents, how do we flip the script and teach?
Flip the script?
How do we flip the script and teach our kids that their worth is not connected to how much people are trying to talk to them via text, via social media, how many likes they get, how many followers they have, and more so out of their relationship with God. So Christopher Teasdale says, by keeping them out of reach as much as possible and using them for communication with others. That's good. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely, that's always the issue. It's like, we've gotten to a world, maybe just our house has, but we've gotten into a place in our parenting where it's just readily available. Like they're connected as much as they want to be. I mean, we put limits on it.
Right.
You know, definitely, like you can't touch the electronics or you can't be on there. Brad says we must affirm them at home. That's
right.
good. What do you think?
I can just say that, you know, this may, you know, sound cliche, but I can tell you that our kids are much, you know, and Ella started to learn, you know, she texts her friends, but she also like does, you know, from iPhone to iPhone does FaceTime.
Yeah.
And so she'll FaceTime her friend Avery, who, you know, lives in Greenville, and I can just tell you this, like our kids do want to use technology to FaceTime. You know, and they're wanting to, you know, but I'm telling you, they are much more interested in this kind of FaceTime with
this kind of FaceTime, not that kind of FaceTime.
Well,
That's electronics.
well, I know that's electronics, but you know what I'm saying.
Kidding.
Like,
Sorry.
I was trying to give perspective. Okay, they're that was funny though. So they're more interested in connecting real, like
Right.
here, face to face, then they are playing. I mean, and it's a retreat, and it may seem like they're addicted to this, but I'm telling you, deep down in their soul, they want a real connection,
Right.
especially with their parents. And guys, I think that we have as parents, we need to recognize the seasons. We need to recognize that, especially if we've got some kids that are under the age of 12. I mean, like, that is like prime time for us to be planting some seeds in their hearts.
Yeah.
And they need some real FaceTime with us. And not necessarily technological, but just they need daddy-daughter date nights.
Yeah.
And
Bike rides.
They need puzzles with mommy. And they need to know that when they're getting that quality time with us, that it's honored quality time, that they're not going to get interrupted by some notification on our phone, that we are prioritizing them, and we're saying, hey, like, you're important enough to where I'm not going to answer a telephone call, I'm not going to reply to a text message, I'm not going to send out some status of what we're doing right now.
Right.
But I'm just going to I'm going to leave the phone at the house. I'm going to spend this next hour just with you.
Right.
Just old school.
That's huge. I mean, it's so interesting too, because in this day and age, we spend these times with our kids, and it's almost as if we can't help but take a picture of our kid being cute doing this thing, or if we're on this like special adventure with our kid, like we have to almost cheapen it by taking a picture of it and posting it for social media to see. And the times that I have done what you said and just said, like, I'm not taking a picture of this, I'm not even gonna pull my phone out, I'm just gonna be here with the kids, it's like they appreciate that, especially once they get older, because they understand that your parents are going to be putting stuff like sometimes if Ella says something and I'm laughing, she's like, are you gonna put that on social media? And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I don't want my kids to just think that I'm just pawning them off to boost my own social media ego, or to create a following. Their cuteness or their special words or our special times together are not staged for the world to enjoy and them to be just an actor or an actress.
Brad Carter was given something that's some practical advice. Says that Kayla, they've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old, and they give them 4 quarters a day, and that each quarter represents like 15 minutes of electronics time. They're not on social media, but they can get on some electronics and play games or whatever. And I think that's some really good practical advice. Just limiting it. I mean, what's the word say? It says everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but I will not be mastered by anything.
Yeah.
And so I think those are 2 tests to say, okay, electronics, is playing a Game Boy or whatever, is it necessarily bad? No. But is it beneficial? And on the other side, am I really in control, or is it controlling me?
Right.
And that's where I think it is important that we talk about fasting and going on fasts, and that's actually a spiritual discipline that we find in the Old Testament and the New Testament. And there's something that doing a fast does for us spiritually. I think, no pun intended, but when we go on a fast, it speeds things up for us spiritually.
Right. Yeah.
When we slow down and we say no to something, whether it be food, or in this case, when we fast social media, when we say, I'm going to go on a Facebook fast, I'm going to lay it down, what it does is it kind of tests whether or not we're addicted.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if we'll just say, well, can I do without it? Can I go on a fast? I think at some point, whatever it is, whether it's clothing, I think God is a jealous God. He knows that it's best for us if He's the ruler of our lives,
right.
if we'll submit ourselves to Him. And so at some point, He's going to ask us to surrender everything in our life.
Right.
He's going to say, hey, is this relationship with this person more important than me?
Right.
Is this, your tendency to look at social media more important than me? Is food more important than me? And just, I think is a piece of designer clothing more important than me? Have you ever had God like you hear, the still small voice of God challenge you to give away one of your really good pieces of furniture or really good pieces of clothing, and give that away to somebody, and just it's I've got this attachment to things, but this fasting actually allows us to see if we're really in control. And I think that's a principle that limiting our kids' intake, but also I think just going on total family fasts from social media,
from all electronics,
is a good. It's really a good practice.
Yeah. Do you guys, any of you who are watching who have kids, I mean, do you practice anything like that? Do you have a day of the week where we're not going to use electronics, or a time of your day? I know for me, recently I just felt, especially with the kids getting back into school, and we have a lot going on after school with different sports and commitments, that that time from 3 until 5:30 or 6, right before we go to a soccer practice or small group or something, is really just such a crucial time.
Yeah.
And the other day I put the littles down at 2 for their nap, and then I have from 2 until 3:15 when the older girls get off the bus to get all my work done on the computer. And it was 10 after 3, and you were here, and I was well, putting this away. The girls are about to get off the bus, and it was just so good. I just started doing that. It's not perfect, but so Bridget says they have a digital free day at their house. That's good.
And I love what she said earlier. Be in the moment.
Yeah, be in the moment. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do after school, is just more be in the moment. I don't want my kids to walk in and see me on my phone or see me on my computer. They don't always understand that I have to do work, that I have to get stuff done. They don't understand exactly what it is I'm doing. All they see is the backside of my laptop. All they see is my head, the top of my head, as I'm looking down at my phone. And what I want them to see is the light of my face that lights up when they walk through the door, because that's another day that I get to be with them. What I want them to feel is so important and loved, that I have the time and the energy and the ability to listen to about their day and to really ask the questions. What I don't want them to feel is that mom's too busy to really connect with them. And so we're just working on that. I'm trying to be, a little bit better at it. I'm not perfect at it, but it's coming. It's coming along, and all we can do.
I think there's a time when screen time can actually be a catalyst for bonding between parent and child, between kids, and so I remember when we were youth pastors, it was, the whole thing was are we going to spend budget money to get basically flat screen TVs and some games. And I remember just kind of wrestling with that, and it's just well, really, they need the face-to-face time. And so what our compromise solution was, we're only going to get interactive games. So there was, we weren't going to buy a game that you could play by yourself. It was only going to be games that were interactive, that were going to foster talking trash because I'm going to beat you, or we've worked together. Yeah, I'm not going to beat you. Yeah. No. Doesn't matter what it is. No, she's not competitive at all. I mean, just I think there's ways to do that. You can. Yeah. We get on, and I mentioned this last week. I'll get on the Slither.io.
Oh my gosh!
It's just the dumbest game, but I'll get on it with Ella, and she's "Oh, Dad, oh, get that person," and so it's and so we're interacting, and then we'll you know, as soon as I die, then she'll play and I'll watch her. And so it's something a little fun. And so, like watching a movie together. I mean, tonight, like, you know, we went old school, watched Harry and the Hendersons. Well, y'all did. I fell asleep. But we popped popcorn and snuggled on the couch. And I mean, I think that there's some bonding that happens.
Yeah, totally. So, you know, Joe was saying that some of this stuff applies to married couples too. I mean, you're right, Joe. Like when Brandon walks into the room, I don't want to be on my phone. You know, I don't want to make him feel like he's not as important as what I'm doing. Now, there's sometimes, I mean, Brandon has his office now in our house. So there's sometimes when I walk into the room and he's actually working and he's got to finish his thought. But for the most part, I would definitely have to agree with you that when we make each other a priority over the electronic relationships that we have, and when we really think about how deep are those relationships? You know, I mean, there are a few online relationships that I'm like, wow, like I have forged a better friendship with this person because of my interactions with her, never him, with her on Facebook or Instagram. But those are few, you know, those are very few, I would say. And really, my closest relationships are the ones that I have face to face.
Right. And
so, how much time am I putting into those, and how much time am I putting into, more importantly, my relationship with God, instead of, or versus, these relationships where I'm just liking somebody from high school's picture of their kids, and you know, we're keeping these shallow relationships going. But a lot of times we're doing it at the expense of the real important relationships right here. You know, and so I think that that's just something that, and maybe this is just more like a phone confessional, Facebook Live confessional for me. I'll say this, Brandon is a lot better at just having those boundaries, having clear-cut boundaries. He's not perfect at it, but for the most part, I would say that you are really good at just putting away the electronics and definitely investing into real relationships, especially with me and the girls. You're definitely better at that than I am.
Well, I think that you know, some of us are wired differently, and so, you know, sometimes I wouldn't know what's going on in the news unless I was married to her, because I'm just I get whoever I'm with, like I'm with you and I'm with you 100%.
Yeah.
And
so maybe there's a hurricane about to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
And
that's good.
They just had.
It's not good. I mean.
No, it's not good.
Yeah. But like she catches me up, and so I think there's a little bit of a balance there, and so she's more wired kind of on the earth, and I'm up in the clouds a lot, and so we balance each other out, and so I think we've got to recognize, you know, a little bit of a different wiring.
Yeah.
And so my struggles are going to be different than yours.
Yeah.
And so I think there's grace there, but I think that all of us need to strive to be able to say like, hey, I've got a grip on this. This thing doesn't have a grip on me.
Yeah. And I'll tell you 3 books that I have read over the last maybe year and a half, 2 years, that have all helped me in different ways. And so if any of you are struggling, and these might be geared a little bit more towards women because they're written by women for women, kind of, but maybe if you find yourself, you know, as a stay-at-home mom like me, or a mom who has, for whatever reason, maybe you're working, you have limited time with your family, or maybe you have a plethora of time with your family, but you want to use it well. 3 books that have helped me are, the first one was 7 by Jen Hatmaker, and in that book she kind of goes through and she takes different subjects. So 1 month it was food, 1 month it was clothing, 1 month it was electronics, and she does without stuff. So in the electronics month they did without all forms of electronics or entertainment, except for what they had to use for work, because she's an author, so she has to use some sort of, you know, electronics for that. But they weren't using any of it for entertainment. And so she kind of journals and talks about what that did to her family, what it did to her relationships with her kids, what it did to her relationship with her husband, what it did to her relationship with God. So that was one of the first things. The second book that I would recommend highly is called Hands Free Mama. And the author's last name is Stafford. And I read that at the beginning of this year and just kind of recalibrated my brain toward what's really important. And meaning my relationship with God is really important. My relationship with my husband is of incredible importance. My relationship with these kids that we have been given is just so important. With the ones that I really love, my friends, my family members. I think that if you need just a great read to be able to encourage you to reprioritize your life, and I think even the subtitle of it was like putting down the phone and recognizing the beauty of life that you have, something like that. It was just an amazing book. And then the last one that I just finished reading was by Shauna Nyquist. It's called Present Over Perfect. And in that book I was really able to kind of understand through her journey maybe the why behind the need, or whenever I feel the need to be on social media a lot or be on my phone, or even if it's just checking Pinterest or watching what other people are doing on their feeds, Instagram, the why behind it, and being able to really just kind of fillet myself open and say, like, why do I get connected to these other lives that aren't as important as the ones that are right here? Have you guys ever thought about that? Have you ever thought of like the why behind it? Because not every single thing on there that we look at is encouraging. Not every single thing is, I mean, especially in a political year. I mean, some of these random articles, like, why am I wasting my time reading these things?
What were some of the whys there? And maybe you know, even some of the folks in the comments could even share, what is your why? You know, what's the thing that's driving you to want to be in the know, to want to be one of the first people to recognize something?
Yeah.
It's.
I think some of it has to do with performance-based acceptance. That something within inside of me, and when I was small, got clapped for when I did well. And now, being in the know of what's happening via social media, and being that person who has really great status updates or awesome pictures with great filters on Instagram.
Is it like last night when we were driving up and I saw a girl with like a real flowy dress, and I was like, man, that's a long dress. And Nicole's like, that's like actually in style right now. She's like on it. And she's like, there's a really good chance, Brandon, that if you think it's weird, it's probably because you're about 6 months behind fashion.
6 years, maybe.
Yeah. So, hey, but
yeah, maybe I do feel
like
accepted more so, you know, with instant gratification of seeing my status out there and then getting likes. I mean, it's the online clapping that makes me feel important. That makes me feel, I don't know. What do you guys think? Carla says the thing that worked for me was to actually delete the apps you're always on.
What's up, Hagler?
And see how much less I picked up my phone. Carla, I've tried that, and sometimes it works good, and then sometimes I'll just go through my browser and I can find it just as quickly. My thumb figures it out very quickly. Have y'all ever dealt with that before?
Do you also have a brain in your thumb? Oh gosh.
Yeah. Social media exists because time does not kill itself. Joe. I love it.
I think that there's something, I mean, you can do fasts, you can do temporary, like, hey, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do this. But I think, so this whole Barry Share thing, I mean, it's like we're trying to really do just like, we want to look back 20 years from now, you know, when I've got a whole lot more gray hair than I do now, and these girls, you know, are not 9, 7, 4, 2, but they're 29, 27, 24, and 22.
Wow.
And we want to look back and not have regrets.
Right.
And we want to say, like, okay, did we spend our time wisely? Did we invest it wisely? Or did we just kind of burn it up?
Yeah.
And so that's the whole point. We want to inspire passion for our priorities.
Right.
But we want to inspire you guys to have passion for your priorities too. I know something, Bridget, you said earlier, it's just like it all comes down to engagement. It's about choosing the thing that you say is the most important to you. Mm-hmm. I think that when we were talking about honor a few weeks back and how I just felt like I got like a simplified, I don't know if I read it somewhere or whatever, but a simplified definition of honor is choosing to treasure the other person.
Right.
And so when I walk in the room and, in the door or whatever, and the girls, Daddy's home, patter, 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 and like run and like, I feel like $1 million.
Yeah.
When my wife puts down whatever she's doing and she meets me at the door with a kiss, like she's honoring me, she's choosing to treasure me. And I feel like in that moment that I'm a king and I've got a crown on my head and it's just like, it doesn't matter. Like the clothes I'm wearing, the house I live in, what I dress, like it's just the people, the prioritized, most important people in my life. If we treasure each other, then we're rich.
Yeah, I think that's good.
When Nicole made me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch the other day, like she made it with love. But you did. Like, and I would have been struggling, like not even having lunch that day. But like you made a PB&J with love.
Hey.
And I was like, this is a good sandwich. And so what I bring that one up because it's so simple. And it's like, of course, like it wasn't filet mignon, okay? It was a PB&J. But she chose to treasure me in that little small thing. And so whether it's with our kids, whether it's, with our spouse, the question is electronics, is social media, is it a vehicle that's actually helping you to treasure your loved ones? Or is it a distraction that's keeping you from treasuring your loved ones?
Yeah.
And if it's more of a distraction than a vehicle, then I think it's time for a fast.
Yeah, a fast, or at the very least, stronger boundaries.
Stronger boundaries.
Of saying, you know what, I'm not going to be on my phone. I'm not going to be on the computer. I'm not going to be on social media, or even like watching my own, Netflix TV or anything.
Yeah.
From this time to this time, or I'm going to stop it at this time, or I'm not going to get on the phone until after the kids are in bed. Yeah. And I've had time to connect with my spouse. Those are things that you can make strong boundaries and say, like, I'm going to do this because my relationships are real relationships are actually more important than my online relationships. Mm-hmm. And so, I think that that's something that we're starting to do more and more. And, our kids are going to learn their electronic habits by watching us mostly. Because as you said, we are our kids' main influence. And so
we're the role models.
If my girls see me on the phone a lot, they're going to think that's okay. And I don't want that to happen. Like we make those boundaries. We don't even bring our phones to the dinner table. Yeah. We don't even bring them to the dinner table. They're seeing me not be on my phone after school. So really, I'm not on my phone in the morning when I'm getting them ready for school, and then when they get after school. So they shouldn't see me on the phone very much at all. Obviously they're not seeing me on my phone when I'm driving, on text and all that stuff. I've started, even if they want music on Pandora or Spotify, they have to find it on the phone for me, because I don't even want to be searching for...
You're letting them be the DJ.
I need to, because I'm trying to teach them that it's not okay, because they're going to be driving one day, and I don't want them to think it's okay to be looking on Pandora or Spotify for a song or searching for something while they're driving. It's not texting, but it's still very dangerous. And so, out of respect for my life, their lives, the lives of people on the road, like I need to completely ignore my phone. And if it doesn't mean, if I can't listen to it on the radio, if I can't listen to it on my, then I don't need to do it. Sing it myself. They'll love it. So, yeah.
So when it comes to technology, and I think we need to wrap this up, but what's he say?
No matter what we tell them, they're going to respond to what we do. I think that's so true.
Right. So, I'm really bad about the addresses, but it's somewhere in either 1 Peter or 2 Peter, where Peter's writing to the church, and he's basically just saying, be a shepherd and be an example.
Yeah.
Be a shepherd and be an example. And so what we've been talking about in terms of electronics mostly tonight is we've been encouraging all of us as parents be like, hey, we need to be examples. And we just need to own that. We need to be examples. We need to say, okay, how can we control us? Because controlling another person is really a myth. I mean, we do.
Right, we can't control our kids.
Right.
But we can control ourselves.
Right. And we do control the permission that we give them.
Yes, we can control the permissions.
So that's one side of the electronics battle, is being an example. But I think the other side is being a shepherd, and so that involves protecting them from the bear,
right,
from the wolf,
right.
That involves leading them in the right path, and it also involves bringing some correction.
Yeah.
And I don't think we're going to open up that can tonight, but what about the dark side of electronics? Nicole was very candid about, an area of struggle for her, in terms of, being able to just whether or not she can just say no to that drive of performance-based acceptance that sometimes, has her have a hard time to put the phone down.
Right.
And so while I may have had victory in that area, I've said this in front of the church before, but it's like, there have been some shame-filled dark days where the dark side of the internet in pornography had its way in my life, and I had to get some help, and I had to ask some men of God to bring some accountability into my life, and some accountability software to be able to put on some devices. And so there are some specific techniques and ways to battle and to hopefully win that war. And so I think that would probably be a good topic for us to segue into next week. Is let's talk about the pornography issue. Let's talk about the dark side of the internet, and let's talk about how can we as parents guard the gates. How can we shepherd our kids and keep them safe in a culture and in a society that is saturated with sexual sin?
Yeah. And here's the thing, is that almost every parent thinks, well, my kid would never do that. And it's not just for guys. It's not just for boys. Girls are getting into this just as much. And so, to put it into lighter perspective, you were the model Christian kid, growing up. No one would have ever thought that Brandon Barry would have struggled with something like pornography, something as dirty and shameful as pornography. But it did. It got its claws into you, and it did some damage until you were able to kind of get back on top of it and rise up. And so, I think that's just something to encourage you. Join us next week. Let's talk about it. Let's talk, because some of you are parents to young kids, and if we can get that discussion going now about how are we going to guard these gates, how are we going to protect our kids, and how do we love our kids through when they do mess up? How do we, or wives, how do we love our husbands who may be struggling with this sin? How do we walk through that and be able to apply grace, and to be able to apply love, and to be able to help keep you accountable without throwing shame and condemnation on you? So join us. Join us next week. It's going to be really fun.
It's going to be real.
It's going to be awesome. But we love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
If you appreciated anything that we were able to discuss today, we would love and appreciate if you would just share this. Share, Barry, share on your timelines, with your group of people that you connect with in some way. We would love to just get this information out. We want to make the discussion bigger, not for our own tooting our horns, but because people need this. Because
it matters.
It matters.
We want you and we want us to live from our biblical priorities.
Right.
We don't want to live with regrets. And I'm just so thankful for every person that I see your names.
Yes.
Myrna Meehan.
Wow, hi.
Man, it's so good to see you. And
Crawford,
Shane Crawford, what's
the
up?
Blaires.
That's right. Love you guys.
Bridget,
and thank you
Carla,
so much for so
Shannon.
many of you guys been tuning in and are regulars. And
Yeah.
so we just thank you for being a part of this conversation, enriching our experience that we have together. We can do this together.
We can.
And so just thanks for being a part of this with us. We love y'all.
Yeah. Peace.